Welcome back, 9 to noon. And 9 to noon, we love to have fun. We love to talk about our favorite teams and our favorite sports and all of that. We don't normally become like breaking news, newsy 9 to noon, at least not on a regular basis. But it must be reported because everyone's been waiting with bated breath to hear what is the answer. Well, I'm happy to report here 9 to noon that the Minnesota Vikings have released their first unofficial depth chart. Hey! And atop said unofficial depth chart, Sam Darnold is your starting quarterback. So go to Vikings.com to follow this news as it breaks and continues on, and we'll give you updates as we can. Massive news this morning that we're all locked in on. Sam Darnold atop the first unofficial Vikings depth chart of 2024.
Nope, no doubt. Massive news day capturing the imagination of the nation, and the fact the Vikings have released that depth chart, that's the massive news on which 9 to noon is focusing at this moment. Joining us now to aid is Ben Goessling, at Ben Goessling, via the tweet machine, Star Tribune beat writer covering the Minnesota Vikings, and we welcome him in now. You, by looking at some of your Twitter recently, the running portion of the Olympics, I mean, you like know names, you know backgrounds, pedigree. I mean, like who's related to Sebastian Coe and why? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The knowledge you have with this.
Well, it's the track coach thing comes out of me here. It's fun. I mean, you watch some of this stuff and it's like I'm doing the same sports. I'm coaching the same sport, but some of the times those guys put up, I mean, it's like it's on a different level. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like playing golf and then seeing what guys in the PGA Tour do. It's just on a completely different plane than what anybody does. And today is going to be one of the better days of the Olympics with the men's 1500 this afternoon. It's like the big rivalry between Jakob Ingebrigtsen from Norway and Josh Kerr. There's like pre-boxing match level trash talk between the two, which for distance runners is kind of rare. So it'll have some fireworks to it. So fortunately, that race is like 20 minutes before Vikings practice. So I can go watch it on my phone and then get out to do the roster check and verify the rankings on the unofficial depth chart.
What was the first guy's name?
Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Watch your language in front of the lady, punk!
I'm behind. And I apologize for this. I'm behind on All Access. What are some things you guys have been discussing with training camp and stuff like that? And I'm assuming I'm not making a mistake here. The podcast is called All Access, right?
Access Vikings.
Access Vikings.
Yes.
That's what I meant. All right, 3-2. I'm behind on Access Vikings. What are some things you guys are discussing that maybe I missed before I play catch up?
We talked a lot of quarterback stuff the other day, kind of just looking at, I mean, because this discussion of when to play McCarthy, I think is probably being driven more by the chatter on social media and just people are curious about the rookie quarterback always, but
ding, ding, ding.
We talked a lot about why they are going the way it appears that they're going. And it's possible that will change, I suppose, if J.J. McCarthy is so good that they say there's no need to wait. But they have been very consistent. And the depth chart this morning continues to be another kind of piece of that same story, that it is Sam Darnold's job for now while they develop McCarthy. So we talked a lot about that, about kind of the cost ramifications of waiting versus not waiting and how that looks a little bit different with a rookie contract for a quarterback. But also why you would not want to overcook this thing or undercook this thing, I should say, and put him out there before he's ready to do it.
Rock climbing is an Olympic sport.
It is.
Crazy. I mean, is that new?
I think it's like in the last two Olympics, yeah.
Okay, rock climbing being an Olympic sport. Your thoughts?
It's been kind of interesting. My older daughter, I should say, has actually kind of gotten into just doing like the vertical endeavors thing, going to do rock climbing. So it's kind of fun to see some of the stuff they're doing. But yeah, they keep expanding. They're trying to find, I think, things that connect with younger viewers. So that's one of them. It's probably why we're getting flag football in 2028. So we may be talking about Olympian Justin Jefferson, though I can't imagine that his current employer would be terribly crazy about him going to play flag football in July.
But I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that'll be a talker in 4 years. Well, I don't know that he's going to actually be able to go do it. But
if they, I mean, quite honestly, if they don't let Jefferson or high end NFLers play, Well, Germany is a cinch to be favored, led by Moritz Boehringer.
Yeah, there you go.
I always love that one.
Think about that.
If he, if it goes better than his last stint playing football in the U.S., then certainly could.
How do you think O'Connell will feel Saturday if the case is, all right, Sam starts, then Sam leaves. JJ dons the armor. JJ enters game. Crowd erupts because of aggregators and social media steam. And a player who I'd bet won't be the starter at MetLife, JJ, becomes the third most popular guy on the team behind Jefferson and Hitman. I mean, how's Kevin going to handle all that?
I think he will continue to kind of do what he's done and praise McCarthy for his development and smile and say, yeah, that's it's a good step in the process, and we're committed to the process. It'll be. He's tried to keep this as steady. So I suppose some could say boring, but
right.
That's not something for which I think he's going to apologize. I think he's trying to, we've heard him talk about kind of he wants to be the last guy to give the thumbs up, the guy that's almost kind of holding everybody back. That everybody's saying we got to put him in, we got to put him in, we got to put him in, and he's saying no, I'm not quite there yet. He seems like he is ready to play that role, and even understands that it's his job to do that. So, yeah, I expect that if McCarthy comes out and looks great, that they will say that's a good sign of progress, and we'll take that for what it is.
When you see Darnold in practice with the ones, and you have a trained eye, what do you consistently see?
I have been impressed by his ability to kind of make some of the throws that you want to see quarterbacks make in this offense in terms of being able to hit things on time. The deep balls we knew were going to be there just because, if you're the third pick in the draft, the arm strength is going to be part of the job that gets you picked where he was picked. But I have been impressed by some of the throws he's able to make kind of over the middle, some of the stuff where in the red zone, he's putting the ball into some traffic. He's done a good job extending plays at times. He had a really nice throw. I think it was Friday. Days all run together in training camp. Like extending a play, hitting Johnny Munt in the back corner of the end zone. So some of those things have been there, and we've seen them from McCarthy as well. But I think Darnold has done a lot of that stuff well, and that's going to have to be part of the offense. I mean, that's some of what they've wanted from Kirk Cousins at times, and I think being able to pull the trigger on some of those throws, those crossers that they have as a big part of their offense, is what they need to see whoever's the starting quarterback make. And I've seen more of that from Darnold than maybe we would have expected based on the reputation coming in here.
These guys, the Vikings and the Goessling and his staff, they do a pretty good job with college free agents. And at least from a competition standpoint, with what we're seeing at training camp and things like that, of course, the low hangers, Ivan Pace Jr. Made the team, plays a lot, will play a lot this year. I'm still not buying that he's going to be green dot guy like he told Kay Adams. We can talk about that later. And they very well have found a nice edge in Gabriel Murphy. And the hope would be, because of it, Patrick Jones Jr. subsequently plays out of his skull and a numbers game battle ensues.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Murphy is an interesting one because I actually thought, I think I had them taking him in my mock draft, but like in the 5th round.
Wow.
So it was one of those things where when they picked him up as an undrafted free agent, it's like I think a lot of people figured he was going to probably be a day 3. I think I even saw some people mocking him as a day 2 pick. And, not the biggest guy in the world, so that may have knocked him down on a few depth charts over the course of the scouting process, but he's looked good. I mean, they've gotten a lot out of him just in terms of athletic ability, in terms of pass rush contributions. I think it is one of those things that will probably push Patrick Jones, because Patrick Jones is in a contract year. He needs to have a step forward if he's going to be around, I think. And having a guy like Murphy who is young, who is affordable for them, and plays that spot, I think will be a bit of a fire under the hindquarters of Patrick Jones that they're probably looking for.
Jaron Hall is smart. All right. He's a scholar of the game. He's smart. Do you think he doesn't? So if I'm asking you, I put you in the mind of Kevin O'Connell. A lot of hypotheticals here, which I'm not a super big fan of, but there are certain things that the temperature is hot, like Jaron Hall. It's not necessarily hot; it's kind of lukewarm. But do you think he doesn't like his chances to be here in a month, Jaron Hall?
I think if his chances were to be on the 53-man roster, I would imagine he's not terribly optimistic about those chances.
Right.
And I think there's pretty easy math to support that conclusion. I think their hope would be to get him to the practice squad, to keep him around. I mean, they've spent a year developing him, a year plus now, I suppose, developing him. I'm sure they'd like to continue to do that. The question would be, does he get picked up on waivers by somebody? I don't know that anybody would have seen anything based on those regular season games that would raise his stock a whole lot. But, I mean, Kellen Mond got picked up, so it's possible that somebody else would say, hey, we kind of liked him in the draft. We saw some things in the preseason. Let's take a flyer on him. But I think the best course of action for Jaron Hall to be here, I think really the only course of action for him to be here would be gets cut, picked up on the practice squad, continues to develop there.
Well, the reason I ask is, were that the case, and that's your opinion, prediction?
Sure.
Same thing with me.
Yep.
Were that the case, what if like Saturday against the Raiders? Well, what if he plays? He obviously would play very late in the game, and he's like, bleep it, and changes plays in the huddle and dips into KO's top shelf stuff.
I always love that one.
He's like, what do I have to lose?
The stuff that, like, hey, we didn't want to show that until week one.
Yeah. Like, if he's playing, the players with whom the final quarterback in the fourth quarter of preseason games plays, 97% of them are not on active rosters.
Yep.
So then maybe if it's like, hey, here's the play, it's conservative, we're just trying to get out of here alive, I'm changing this bad boy, and we're going to some KO's prime cuts, and we're going to go deep on a double move.
That might expedite his departure from Minnesota. I think that's very possible. Now we've seen,
like, during the game, with a suitcase on the sideline.
Or very quickly afterwards. We've seen fourth quarter quarterback heroics in the preseason before, and certainly developed quite a following for Kyle Sloter. So maybe he's our new version of that over the next couple of weeks here. We'll see.
Underrated thing about which nobody is talking. All right. No Najee Thompson due to injury.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, maybe you've talked about it and I missed it.
No, not really.
But it really, really opens a hole at the gunner spot because he was getting really, really good at what he does. Big deal or no big deal? Oh, wait. I like that. 3-2. Big deal or no big deal? Not having Najee Thompson, at least at this stage of the equation, in that gunner spot. Big deal or no big deal, and why?
Is this like NFL Films music?
No, don't say that on the radio, because then they'll check the podcast.
Oh, no, it's not. It's just, it gets me in the football spirit, whatever it is.
Are you trying to get us sued right now?
Oh, it's
whatever generic thing it is.
The autumn wind is a Benjamin.
Yes.
Running just for fun.
Yes. At any rate, I think it's not no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the gunner
it's
thing.
Kind of a deal.
Yeah, the gunner thing, and the other piece of this is in the kickoffs, and we're going to see how all this works out. But I think some of the working theory on kickoffs is that guys who can run and make open field tackles. Now, Najee Thompson's been straight line speed. That's mostly what we've seen him do. But I think you're going to see guys that can cover ground and tackle in space as valuable pieces of kick coverage units as well. So I'm curious if he would have a role in that regard as well, if he gets healthy enough to show that he can fit on one of those teams. So yeah, I think it's one of those, below the radar things that doesn't get a ton of attention. But yes, it is an injury that would affect them because he's shown he's valuable in the role he plays.
The con.
How about this? Big deal or no big deal? Justin Jefferson getting rest days, getting that hammy right, feeling good, feeling confident again.
I think it is a big deal in the sense that they've been able to get him to do it, and that it just tells you that that is still on their minds a little bit. And some of it is because he does practice hard. He's not a guy that takes a lot of time off. We saw it last year when he didn't have a contract. He's like, I'm not skipping any of this. I'm going to go out and do what I typically do. So trying to kind of keep him sustained in the midst of the way he practices, and just the fact that he's going to be a huge part of the offense is part of it. But it also was really interesting when he talked last week about, I'm still scared, or I'm still, really afraid that the hamstring's going to happen again, whatever the official wording was. He said, I'm being really cautious about it because I just don't want the hamstring to pop up on me again. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, just in the sense of we've not heard Justin Jefferson give much airtime to those types of things to admit, this is still in my mind. So the fact that he said it, I thought was pretty telling.
Big deal or no big deal, and you referenced it with Najee. Who's getting reps in the new kickoff bit starting on Saturday? Is that where you start analyzing the names and who you would expect to slot in come week one? Big deal, no big deal, the names you see in those return aspects of the new kickoff?
I would lean more on the no big deal side of this because I think they are going to play their cards very close to their chest. We may see guys that could fit in those types of roles, but if they have designs on, like, we're going to put a starter out here at some point, I don't think for a second you're going to see that in the preseason. And I don't know if they will go that way with the starters. I mean, there's been some discussion of, could you play more of those guys because there's less running involved?
If they go three wide, Brandon Powell's a starter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Powell's definitely a name.
Sure.
Wanwu's a name, right?
Yep. I mean, in terms of returners, yes.
Yeah. See, the thing I'm starting to think about this is like after the Hall of Fame game, we're doing the Friday football feast, and I'm like, big deal, because they have taken something that was dead and resurrected it. A lot of people are talking about it, writing about it, and thinking about it. Granted, it's new. Also, recently I learned that, and this could change, but when there's a penalty, say on an extra point or whatever, and penalties assessed on the kickoff, do you know the answer to this?
Maybe.
The yard, say it's 5.
Yep.
Okay, or say it's 15. I think they're going to be assessed at the end of the kickoff return.
Yes, I think that's right.
Okay.
Because I think what they're hoping to avoid...
So my man runs out to the 40, and it's a 15-yard penalty. Well, now all of a sudden you're on the plus 45.
Right, yeah. That is a big change. I think the kickoff in general is going to be a big change. And part of the reason they're assessing it at the end of the return is they don't want kickoffs where it's, hey, you're kicking from the 50, let's just launch it through the end zone. Yes. They are trying to avoid the boring touchbacks as much as they can. So that makes a ton of sense as to the thinking of why they're doing it that way.
And unless it is emergency situation, like think 2007 Soldier Field.
Yep.
Hey, we're going to put Adrian Peterson back on a kickoff at the end of the game. My man returned at 60 some odd yards into plus territory, but he wasn't a kick returner.
Yeah.
It's
if you asked him though, I bet he'd say he'd be the best one at it.
Well, of course, and he can throw. And Jefferson, if you gave Justin a chance to play full-time quarterback, ask him. He'd be 27 of 31, 364 and 0.
Yep.
They all think they can do everything, but that's part of the competitive nature of these supernatural type athletes. However, is like seeing the hits Bears guy took and Steven Sims took in the Hall of Fame game. Yeah. I'm not putting a one of all ones ever to one back. They take hits, man. I mean, the hits aren't like running full down the field like that type of video game blow up stuff. But it's multiple people hitting the returner really hard. So I'm dead on the ones on that.
Yeah, I think if it were going to be the ones, I mean more in terms of like coverage units. If you're going to play somebody...
Well, I'm thinking returner.
Yeah, no, I don't think returners. I think coverage units possibly. And the other one that could be sort of interesting, Matt Daniels talked about this, and I don't know if it'll go this way, but do you put better blockers out there? Because this play sets up a little bit more like a screen pass or, Wow. It's going to be something where you coordinate blockers probably more so than just hit a straight line speed kind of thing.
I think it's all defensive players and C.J. Ham.
Yeah, I think it's very possible too. I mean, C.J. Ham's going to be part of it.
We've seen that a little bit out there,
Yes.
Big deal or no big deal? How about Goessling hitting on these undrafted cats? Whether it's Ivan Pace a year ago, Gabriel Murphy, you mentioned him. PA loves Owen Porter. I think he went to Marshall.
Najee
Thompson. Dwight McGlothern, a potential option.
Spencer Rowland from Apple Valley.
So as we have gone down the list, and everyone's done it from 22 and 23, and now in this year, what do we got out of the QB and the cat from Alabama, hoping he can start and play often and early and well and be a defensive rookie of the year caliber player in Dallas Turner. How about Kwesi handling business in the undrafted market? Gentlemen, big deal, no big deal? I think a good deal.
I think it's certainly a good deal. I think a big deal in the sense that, we've talked about it a lot, that they have not gotten great returns from these the 2022 draft certainly, and then probably the 2023 draft, at least initially, other than Jordan Addison. So if you're missing on some of those picks, like they certainly look like they have in 2022, hitting on some of these undrafted free agents does assuage some of those concerns. Not completely, because you got to hit on draft picks, but it, from a roster perspective of just we need cheap, controllable young talent, it does give you some places to get that when the drafts so far have not produced a ton of that. So I'd say it's a big deal in that sense.
Ben Goessling, the scribe at Ben Goessling via Twitter, covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com.
My last one for you is kind of self-explanatory, but big deal or no big deal, we mentioned it in the first segment, Ben, and you've been reporting on it. Jordan Addison, has a court date that is October 7th.
Yep.
You also have a potential suspension based on the results of that first court date on October 7th. I believe it is a 3-game suspension. Big deal, no big deal. The team's trying to prepare for the season. You may not have finality to this until you're a month into the season, trying to balance all of that, get the kids' head right, and win games. Big deal, no big deal. Obviously a big deal, and maybe the biggest deal that they're facing at this particular moment.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's a big deal because I'm not so sure that the suspension would hit right after the court date. And that court date is like to enter a plea in an arraignment, and it is possible that they could get it pled down to a lesser charge. But I have seen players do that and still get the NFL suspension. I don't know that a lesser charge necessarily negates the NFL doing what it's going to do. That said, some of these suspensions don't hit right away. The NFL, it's possible, would wait until a little bit later, maybe even into 2025. So I don't know that you're going to see suspension in October. But especially if it were to be that way, TJ Hawkinson is still coming back, I think it's a big deal because this offense is quarterback friendly in part because of all of the weapons they have in addition to Justin Jefferson. So if at whatever point they lose him for 3 games, I do think it hurts the offense. So I think it's a big deal in that sense.
Much more from 9 to noon on the obvious, massive news that is capturing the imagination of the nation when the radio show continues around the corner on FM 100.3 KFAN.
Before we get back to 9 to noon, throughout the show, we've been trying to keep you updated on significant news that has really gripped all of us, whether we're hardcore Vikings fans and sports fans or not.
Ben and I were just talking about it between segments.
Indeed, and always willing to accept opinions because this is a divisive one. 64686, the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line.
Puppy.
But news popping earlier that the Kansas City Chiefs have signed Harrison Butker to a contract extension that makes him the NFL's highest paid kicker.
Oh my gosh. Above average at that.
The extension is for 4 years and $25.5 million, 17 3/4 guaranteed. This is per Adam Schefter, and at $6.4 million per year, Butker will make more than the previously highest paid kickers, both Justin Tucker in Baltimore and the Eagles' Jake Elliott. And this ties Butker to the Chiefs through the 2028 season. So breaking news as it happens. 9 to noon. We're always going to keep you on top of all of this. Harrison Butker, fresh cash in his pocket. He negotiated the deal himself. How about that?
Man, we're paying $6 million plus a year for kickers now. Man.
Breaking news and breaking water as it happens. This is FM 100.3 KFAN. Good morning. Working on any whoppers? Any lobby whoppers coming up in the near future at the old Strib?
I'm working on a good one that has not required at least it started in a lobby, but not a road hotel lobby. It started in the TCO lobby, I guess. But yeah, I have a good one that I've been working on for a while that I think is going to be kind of fun.
Nordo and I were in Bike Spites discussing. He went down the road of like stock, like what the stock, Jaquelin Roy, like that's a stock I would buy right now at like $7.22. hope by Thanksgiving it gets up to 32 and change. It splits, and then we sell it and move on with our lives. Subsequently, there's other stock that like J.J. McCarthy starting game one at MetLife. That's a $32 stock. I would sell my stock on that individual commodity, that situation. But when it comes to like Jaquelin Roy, okay, Roy's had a decent camp from what I understand. Patrick Jones Jr. has looked pretty good from what I understand. Yep. Caleb Evans, that was the perplexing one to me when he hit like his stock. Like analyze his stock, Paul. Analyze his stock, Ben. A Caleb Evans stock. What do you think?
Well, it's a hard one because they have made moves the last couple of years to suggest that they at least want to look at options, whether it's signing Shaq Griffin, whether I think Mekhi Blackmon was going to play a bigger role before he got injured. I think, continuing to go sign guys like Fabian Moreau that are experienced and are already getting some run with the ones. I think they need to see more from a Caleb Evans before they say, okay, we're good here. Especially at the end of last year.
Moreau ran with the ones on Saturday, right?
He did, yes.
Yes, I knew. You're right. 39.
Yep.
Yeah, and wow, that was fast.
Yeah, it was. And he's got history with O'Connell. I mean, O'Connell was in Washington with him, so he knows him a little bit from there. Mm-hmm. But I think Evans is in a make-or-break year, and he knows it. I mean, he said it last week that basically he got asked what's at stake this year. He said everything, from roster spot to starting role, all these kinds of things. And he spent a lot of his offseason basically saying, I need to learn the game better. I have the athletic ability to play this position. I've fixed my tackling so that I'm not putting myself at danger of a concussion when I'm coming in and trying to just obliterate people all the time. I mean, that was last year's kind of big project. And then, changing helmet, changing safety equipment. I think he did a better job there to keep himself on the field. But he admitted, I need to do a better job of understanding how offenses are trying to attack me.
Yep.
And that was a lot of how he spent his offseason. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. But yeah, I think he is aware that this is probably, I mean, he's got one more year on the rookie deal after this year. But if he wants to go get an extension, even if it's a modest one, this year is going to have a lot to do with that. So I think he'd be the first to tell you that this is a really, really, really important year for him.
Oh, wow. Ari Mirov?
Yep.
Okay. Did I say the last name right? Myrov Mirov?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you for sure.
Off verified reports, okay? Well, Ayuk's about to be fired. It's where things stand with 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk per verified reports. He tweeted this 8 minutes ago. From Adam Schefter, 49ers have given Ayuk permission to negotiate a new contract with specific teams. Browns and Patriots have agreed to trade deals with the 49ers per Mayoko NBCS.
Yeah.
Cleveland would send...
He's plugged in with the 49ers.
Wow. Cleveland would send Amari Cooper, and New England would send Kendrick Bourne draft picks, also likely involved.
Wow.
So this Ayuk thing, man, holy cow, he worked his way out of there.
Yeah, it is interesting because, I mean, it seems like it was maybe heading that way, but they've done a pretty good job of kind of being able to keep the lid on a lot of those things. Boy, if he went to the Patriots, go get Drake May, his number one target, and although I don't think Drake May has gotten off to a great start in that camp from what I've heard from people out there, so that's down the road. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think the Browns make some sense. You're trying to go get another target for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
The Patriots is an interesting one. I think that if he goes there, that's a long-term play and maybe not necessarily what he's expecting right away. Certainly would be a big change from playing in Super Bowls in San Francisco to going to a pretty big rebuild in New England.
I have another diseased hypothetical for you, but just bear with me.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's okay. There could be something coming up with Addison. Okay.
Yeah.
Like from a suspension standpoint, Nordo hit me early. I didn't have the answer. Like what do you think's next for him? With that early October bid. Yeah, what do you think?
In terms of what this means for his career?
Yeah. No, like suspension. I have no idea what's next.
Well, I think I mean, the first step of this is going to be the legal process.
Okay.
And then the NFL typically will do what it does after that. And like I say, I don't know if that hits in October, November. I can think back to like the one that sticks in my head, and I don't know why. It's just one of these things I remember from having covered it. Jabari Price. And that's going to be a name from way back.
Yeah, the guy Laquan Treadwell body slammed at Mankato training camp.
Yeah, he was like I think got a DUI end of the 2014 season, and then suspension did not get adjudicated until like the following August. Now, obviously, there aren't a lot of games that they felt any rush to get anything done, but I just bring that up to say that the NFL's process for these things can take a while, and if you don't hear anything in October, like say it gets done legally in October, whatever the legal outcome of this is going to be, happens in October, I would not assume that if Jordan Addison is not suspended by like November 15th or something, that it's case closed with the NFL. The NFL can just take a long time with these things sometimes. So until there's some ruling from them or some concrete indication that we're not doing anything disciplinary, I would not assume it's done. And the NFL's wording on this, on their player conduct policy, is pretty clear that first offenses for this generally result in 3-game suspensions. It's not something where they sit there and say, well, you know, we're going to let a lot of these things slide. It's been fairly by the book on a lot of these things. So I would assume more likely than not that he's heading towards that kind of discipline.
Well, the reason for the question was the 2%er would be Addison involved in a trade with the Niners and Ayuk here.
Yeah. Okay.
So Amari Cooper is second half of his career. Addison is better than Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah.
At this stage.
For sure.
And so there, but like even if it's a 2%er, Kwesi has to call, right?
Sure.
I mean, you got to call and just say, you know, and I'm
you got to pay Ayuk then too, though.
You're right. See, that was
that's
the point.
Tricky part.
Okay, but you
could. Well, you got your cheap quarterback,
right? Well, you got your cheap quarterback.
Yep.
Well, you got 2 cheap quarterbacks, a 1 and 10 and a rookie.
Yeah, and you still have the dead money from Cousins this year, but they still have space to spend. And after this year, the Cousins money is gone. The Hunter dead money is gone.
Wow.
I mean, they could.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that they would. Well, I think they like Addison, but that's interesting.
Right. Well, Ayuk was from that 2020.
Yes.
That wide receiver.
He went after Jefferson.
He would be. I mean, if you're making N'Keal Harry a tight end, if you're making Blake Brandel a left guard, if you're bringing in Trent Sherfield Jr., you're looking to get more physical in non-obvious spots in your running game.
And in their depth chart, shout out Dan Barrero, your ship has come in. They listed their base as 21 personnel.
Wow.
Whatever that's worth.
Right. Well, they're looking to get more like Jawan Jennings for the Niners. Super physical, great run blocking receiver.
Yep.
Ayuk, fantastic run blocker. Debo, that's what they do.
Yep.
And
Sherfield, same thing.
And Sherfield, exactly. So it's just something on which to chew.
that is interesting.
It's a 2%er.
Yeah, it probably like is. But Kwesi has a lot of contacts in San Francisco, so
think about it.
It is interesting.
I appreciate you. I'll see you out there today.
All right, sounds good.
Ben Goessling covers the Minnesota Vikings in fantastic fashion for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. At 9 to noon, we'll be right back.
We would have breaking news 9 to noon this morning and a chance to talk about it in more detail during News de Nord before we move forward. It's important, and we get this. It's so exhausting. Just who's it going to be? Waiting for a decision to be made. And this is why it needs to be this person. This is why it needs to be that person.
Yes, sir.
The arguing that ensues, people take sides, and everybody just hates each other.
Harrison Butker's agent was canceled 5 minutes ago. I just saw it.
So finally, I do have some news to share with the 9 to noon listening public. If you haven't looked at social media, it's been all over the place. Jaden Daniels is going to start in Washington's first preseason game this week.
Above average at that.
Yeah, Coach Dan Quinn, he told reporters on the first unofficial depth chart, he's QB1. So Commanders rookie Jaden Daniels on Saturday, I think it's an 11 a.m. Central game. They're at the New York Jets. It's going to be Jaden Daniels starting the preseason opener. So stop asking and stop losing sleep over it. We're all going to continue on. We will continue to persist and exist as we move forward.
Preach with that mirror in front of you.
But finally, we get an answer to the question everyone's been asking. Jaden Daniels will be starting Saturday versus the Jets. Best of luck to him. Best of luck to the Minnesota Twins tonight.
And I'm on board with that decision, by the way.
Same here, as a matter of fact. Yeah, really since minute one. I've tried not to get loud about it, but I think that's the right way to go.
Right.
I truly do believe that. The Twins won News to Nord, by the way. Thank you to The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com for a live racing schedule, event details, and you just can you don't even need to look at the website if you're just trying to feel the felt because they're always open. Go in and play poker, blackjack, and table games and have a blast at Canterbury. The Twins won 3-0 last night at Wrigley, PA. David Festa, about 9 Ks over 5 innings. He was, for the most part, terrific.
Yeah.
Just 2 hits and a couple of walks. It was Mr. Thielbar, Alcala, Duran, and Jax. The only tough part about Festa's night is that he only went 5 innings. So he needed to get an inning, and they all chipped in with scoreless relief opportunities. Thielbar, Alcala, Duran, and Jax. It was Royce Lewis with a sac fly. I think Manny Margot had a home run.
Yep.
So good stuff there. You get out with the victory. It's Lopez and Imanaga tonight. And the Twins, they've now won 5 in a row. That might be the the best win streak or stretch in Major League Baseball right now. But Cleveland's got 2 more against the D-backs. The Diamondbacks, by the way, we broke that news earlier today. They're 15-5 over the last 20. All they do is win, win, win no matter what. We want the Diamondbacks to win a couple of more because it's a 4-gamer starting with a Friday doubler at Target Field.
Wow.
The Guardians and Twins. How weird would it be chasing the Guardians all season long, and if things fall the right way and Twins handle business, PA, they could flip the standings by Monday morning.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting because those who into the All-Star break, the Guardians had a pretty fair country lead, bigger than it is now, over the Twins. But learned and elite baseball minds, which would not be me, informed me and apprised me of the difference in the schedules after the All-Star break and strength of schedule. Now, I'm not a massive strength of schedule guy in the National Football League because things change so much with injuries once you get into it. Baseball, I have a high level of respect for it because it's a long-form game. And it's kind of bearing its fruit right now with the Guardians. They beat the Orioles Thursday and Friday, and the Twins got the White Sox over the weekend. All right, so this looks like boom, boom, boom for the Twins. Shy Sox have now lost 21 in a row. So the Twins sweep the Sox, but Cleveland keeps beating a good Baltimore team until Saturday and Sunday. And that's when Santander, Henderson, and Adley Rauchman and Cedric Mullins and the Cats, they were able to beat Jay Lu's team. And, the Twins won both games, so they cut into it. And Cleveland lost again yesterday in a spine tingler, and the Twins beat just a no-hitting Chicago team. Holy cow, what a no-hitting bunch that is. And Kyle Hendricks actually was better than I and some other people thought he would be. Although he was messing with fire early in that game. But nevertheless, now rubber meets road this weekend, but that's not the end of it because you still have all of September. So it's getting late early for a lot of them, but it's starting to get quite exciting for the Twins Covenant.
Some more NFL bits kind of building off of camp cuts from earlier. I did see this news, and it's bad news for Emmanuel Moseley. Now, I did not know, admittedly, and maybe I did, and I just forgot. I thought he was still with the Niners, so that's my mistake there. He's with the Lions. The problem is, for Kitties fans, he tore a pectoral muscle, and he's out indefinitely. I remember Anthony Barr tore his pec maybe week 2 against the Colts a few years back.
Here's the deal with Moseley. I think I know where you're messing up. Is the Kitties so strapped at corner forever, they went and got Moseley and Sutton into last year.
They did, okay.
And they knew both of them were coming off injury. Well, they got Sutton up to speed, then Sutton messed up off the field and was ever burnable on the field, so now he's gone. Mosley, they couldn't get on the field. So now, in essence, he's had a year and change, I believe, removed from injury. And so that's that. Emmanuel's been there for a year and change, but he was a Niner.
Well, it's bad news for him because this is likely a season-ending injury. They're just putting it as out indefinitely. But when Anthony Barr tore his pec, and there's another member of the team that tore his pec, and I'm completely losing it right
for the
now.
Vikings.
For the Vikings.
Oh yeah, defensive or offensive lineman.
Was it Daniil?
Yes, it was Daniil.
Okay, well then
I believe it was.
So he's likely gone. And that is, by the way, have they caught Cam Sutton yet? Remember, he was like running from the cops down in Florida somewhere?
Yes. I think that whole thing came to fruition.
Okay.
But I stopped following it pretty much 10 minutes after it popped.
Well, best of luck to him. Best of luck to Emmanuel Mosley in the recovery because they're excited about Terrion Arnold. They love Brian Branch. They love Carlton Davis. Just picked him up from the Bucks. But whether it's John Kaminsky, he's hurt on the defensive line. You got DJ Reader on the pup. They've had some injury concerns in Detroit as they try to put themselves in a spot to be the leader of the pack in the NFC North. One more bit for you, NFL-wise and former Viking-wise. How about teammate Zadarius Smith of the Cleveland Browns? Browns rookie defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. has made a strong impression on Mr. Smith. Hall was a second-round pick in April, joined a deep defensive tackle group that includes Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, Dalvin Tomlinson, Quentin Jefferson. He's different, man. He reminds me of Aaron Donald a bit, Zadarius said of Mike Hall Jr. Hopefully he don't see this and try to get a big head. Younger guy, wants to learn and just asks a lot of questions. If you did see when we were doing one-on-ones, he was winning each and every rep. So to have a young guy like that just wants to continue to get better and better each and every day is big for our D-line, and we're happy to have him. Mike Hall Jr., another name to watch week and change from now when you're in Cleveland, PA.
No doubt. Cleveland also, and this really is, and we know a lot of people tune in to 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN when it comes to major news, let's say.
Yeah.
The type of news that's capturing the imagination of the nation. And that all plays into the fact that the Cleveland Browns are very much a contender to trade for Brandon Ayuk with the San Francisco 49ers. Ooh. That is the biggest news of the day at this stage, which is capturing the imagination of the nation. And we are here for breaking news and breaking water as it happens.
I always love that one.
This is FM 100.3. This is 9 to noon on KFAN.